So hello and welcome to the video. Now BA has told me and tens of thousands of other members of the executive club that they don't want our business. They've jacked up the qualification thresholds for status so significantly that it's now virtually impossible for the leisure travel to achieve status. But we must assume that BA knows best, and I'll certainly be keeping a close eye on future earnings announcements to see if they actually do. But all of this means that I am now homeless when it comes to OneWorld status. The Emerald equivalent status I achieved with BA will last until September this year, and I should then soft land to OneWorld Sapphire through till April next year. I recently released a video where I talked at some length about what my thought process was and what my options might be. And I promised to make 2 videos about the other OneWorld member schemes I was thinking of moving my business to. So in this video I'll talk about Finnair's loyalty program, which helpfully is called Finnair Plus. I'll talk about how you achieve status, how much it might cost you to get there, and the benefits that you will receive from achieving status. So if that sounds good and the length of this video in the thumbnail hasn't put you off, stick around. Hi, I'm Matt and this is Matt's Planet. I aim to entertain, educate and inspire with my travel adventures from planning to execution. I'll show you how you can travel in style for a lot less than you'd think. So subscribe so you can come with me. Now a quick point before we get stuck in. I am trying very hard to use OneWorld status terminology going forwards. BA's silver status equates to OneWorld Sapphire and their gold status equates to OneWorld Emerald. Using the OneWorld terminology still doesn't come easy to me, but it's important that I do, as really annoyingly not all airlines use the same terminology. Both Finnair and Qatar have gold tiers within their programs, but they only equate to OneWorld Sapphire, which is the equivalent of BA's silver. Both Finnair and Qatar have a tier called Platinum, which equates to OneWorld Emerald or BA Gold, and that is the one you need to shoot for if you want to continue using the first wing and the various first-class OneWorld lounges around the world. The terminology really can trip you up, so I'm going to try really hard to make it absolutely clear through this video what I'm actually talking about. So, Finnair Plus, let's start talking about membership years, and unlike BA, now Finnair's membership year ends are not fixed. Your year will start when you join the scheme, so if you join on March the 10th, your year end will be set as March the 31st. I've not actually joined it yet because there is an optimisation opportunity from being very strategic about when I sign up. Not having signed up though makes some of this video quite hard to research, as I don't actually have a live account that I can look at. But I've spent many hours researching this. Finnair's media team has also very kindly answered a couple of questions for me, so thanks to them. So I am quite confident that all of this is accurate, but I will apologise in advance if I do get anything wrong. Finnair though is like BA in that any status you achieve in a membership year will last you for the remainder of that year and the entirety of the next year. So if you did join on March the 10th, you'd effectively get a 12.5 month first year, as it would lap around until the end of March the year after you joined. And if you were able to achieve status within a month or so of joining, that status would then last for just about 2 years. Which is why being very careful about when you choose to sign up might be really smart. Finnair is also like BA in that they also have a grace period, although it's kind of like a hybrid grace period. And as a quick recap, a grace period is a period beyond the end of your membership year where your status benefits prevail. BA's 1 month grace period effectively means that if you're able to renew your status within that month, you will maintain that status perpetually without ever actually losing it. Like BA, Finnair allows you to maintain the travel and in-flight benefits for a month beyond the end of your membership year. But there is a hard end to the system-based benefits. So if you don't retain your status before the end of your membership year, when you fly after it, you'll still be able to use the lounges, but any points you earn will be calculated as per the tier status that you have dropped to. Now Finnair handles points collection quite differently to BA, so it might at first sound like there's no real difference between the schemes, as you can still use the lounges in that grace period. But there are some consequences to how points work within Finnair that we will come to. And Finnair also differs from BA in that it doesn't offer a soft landing. If you haven't retained the status you have by the end of your membership year, you will drop not one tier, but to whatever tier the status points you did earn indicate that you should be at. So if you gather precisely 0 tier points in a year, you'll drop all the way back to the entry-level tier within their scheme. Now Finnair has told me that they will sometimes provide a soft landing to higher status holders within their programme, but that is done purely at their discretion and so is not something that you can rely on. So all loyalty programs need to track two things: status and rewards. Now BA does this with tier points and with Avios, and it's important to understand the difference and how each side of the equation works when it comes to tracking progress. Finnair also has to track those two things, but they helpfully also call them tier points and Avios. But really helpfully, in Finnair's program, you earn, when flying, tier points and Avios at exactly the same rate. So if you earn 10,000 tier points from a flight, you're going to earn 10,000 Avios. What you do with them is different, but the way you earn them, being unified, is actually really quite handy. Now I want to talk very briefly about Avios here. Finnair offers exactly the same Avios as BA, Iberia, Aer Lingus, Qatar and a few others. And they are freely transferable around the Avios universe. I don't believe you can move Avios directly from Finnair to Qatar, but you can move them from Finnair to BA and then onwards to Qatar. There's no fee for doing that, and I believe all transfers are instantaneous. The transfers I've made between BA and Qatar certainly have been. And as with BA, you can earn Avios into Finnair's scheme by things like car hire, hotel stays, shopping, branded credit card use and the like. I've not looked at whether Finnair's earning rates for hotel stays are better or worse than the other airlines in the group, but because an Avio is an Avio, you could look to see which scheme gives you the best return for any stay or purchase that you might have upcoming. So tier points, they control your progress through the various status tiers. Finnair's scheme has 5 levels. You become a basic member when you join, and once you've accumulated 15,000 tier points within your membership year, you will be promoted to silver. Gaining 45,000 tier points within a year, so 30,000 more, will take you up to Finnair's gold tier. Now remember, that's only the equivalent of BA Silver, but it is the level at which lounge access will be granted around the OneWorld airlines. And then it's another 35,000 tier point jump up to 80,000, which is where Finnair's Platinum tier kicks in. And that's the tier that's equivalent to BA's Gold. So BA requires 20,000 new tier points for its Gold equivalent, and Finnair requires 80,000, and that makes it sound like Finnair's is 4 times as difficult to achieve. But it isn't necessarily, because the scaling of how you earn points in those two schemes is radically different. And we'll talk about earning tier points in a moment. Another tier does exist above Platinum, and for 300,000 tier points you will achieve Lumo status, although 250,000 of those points needs to be earned on Finnair Metal. So I'm going to assume that's going to be out of reach for anyone watching this video, and I'm not going to talk about it any further. Except to say that it's the equivalent of OneWorld Emeralds, just as the Platinum tier is. But I will add here that there is no requirement to fly on Finnair Metal at all to achieve any of those lower tiers, which is another major attraction of this scheme, although flying on Finnair, and specifically in their wonderful air lounge seat, is by no means an ordeal. So you need 45,000 points to reach Sapphire and 80,000 points to reach Emerald. Hello, Future Matt here, and I made a mistake. Now, if this is your first time watching this video, carry on. You'll never notice, except for this bit. And if you're rewatching this video, I've invisibly mended things. And I'll pop up a little bit later to explain the mistake that I've made. And if you've started executing a status strategy based on watching this video, don't worry, the error wouldn't have changed your thinking. Finnair offers two very helpful ways of shortcutting your progress to those totals, the first of which is tier bonuses. When you reach Finnair's silver tier, which is the equivalent of OneWorld Ruby, so isn't really that useful, you'll earn a 10% bonus on some of the tier points you'll earn when holding that tier. And as tier points and Avios are earned at the same rate, you'll receive that boost on both sides of the scheme. So instead of needing 30,000 tier points to get from silver to gold, you may actually only need 27,273 from flying, as the bonus will give you the additional 2,727 that you need. And gold status will give you a 15% bonus on some of the tier points that you'll earn. So of the 35,000 more points you'll need to get up to the platinum status, you may only need to earn 30,435 of them, and the bonus of 4,565 will top you off. Points earned at the platinum tier may give you a 25% bonus, and that will be relevant when we talk about renewing status. And I'll explain when the bonus applies to tier points as we go along. There is an assumption in there though. If the first flight you take earns you 20,000 tier points, that will blast you all the way through the basic tier into silver. But your status won't have upgraded mid-flight. But I'm going to assume that Finnair systems do effectively promote you mid-flight, so I'm going to assume that the 5,000 points you earn into that silver tier will earn that 10% bonus. Now I'm told that Finnair's system actually doesn't do this, and indeed it can take a couple of days for flights to credit and for status tiers to get updated. So you may find yourself earning points on flights at a slightly lower rate than you were perhaps expecting. But it's not really going to make a huge difference. So take all of these numbers as being the absolute minimums that you would need to achieve the various status levels. So that's the first shortcut to status available from tier bonuses. The second is available by converting Avios into tier points. Now Finnair is quite unusual in allowing you to do this. Now some airlines, including Aegean, allow you to buy a small number of status points for cash. But being able to use the currency of a frequent flyer scheme to achieve status is actually really quite rare. And Finnair will allow you to buy 50% of a tier status's requirement once per membership year. And there's a 3-to-1 conversion rate, so 1,000 tier points will cost you 3,000 Avios. Now you need 15,000 tier points to reach silver, but once you're there you could buy 7,500 tier points to help you retain that status or to help you to progress to the next tier. So instead of needing 30,000 flown miles to get from silver to gold, you'd only actually need 22,500 because you could buy the other 7,500 with Avios. And as I will show you later, it is always better to get tier points from trading Avios than it will ever be from flying. But a bonus may also kick in, which means you'd only need to earn 20,455 tier points from flying to get the 30,000 you'd need to move from silver to gold, taking into account the Avios that you can convert and the bonus that you'll earn. And Finnair's gold tier equates to OneWorld Sapphire, which would give you lounge access around the OneWorld network. And similarly, gold members can buy 50% of the tier points you need to get to gold to help them retain that status or to help progress to the next tier. But you can only buy tier points once a year. So if your goal is to get to Finnair's platinum status, equivalent to OneWorld Emerald, which is where the first class lounges kick in, you'd skip the 7,500 tier points that would be available to you as you were a silver member on your way through the tiers, and you would instead hit the 22,500 tier points that are available to you once you've reached their gold tier. So instead of needing 35,000 tier points from flying to progress from gold to platinum, you only need to get 12,500 tier points from flying. So taking into account the gold tier bonus, that may leave you a net flying requirement of only 10,870 points to get you from OneWorld Sapphire to Emerald. So if you combine both of the boosters that are available in Finnair's scheme, you'd only need to earn 79% of the points from flying to achieve OneWorld Sapphire, and it's 66% of the points from flying to achieve OneWorld Emerald. Now, I said that contributing Avios to status is always going to be cheaper than getting them from flying, but how much will they actually cost? Well, I get mine at an average cost of 1/4p each, as I explain in this video. But if you needed to buy points, there are a couple of options. Finnair, BA and indeed Qatar will sell you Avios. That's usually not a brilliant deal, but they will all regularly have promotions where the price will become much more attractive. But if you already earn Avios through BA, you will have the opportunity to boost them across in the BA website. And Avios bought through a BA boost will cost you 0.92 of a P each, at least for the first 300,000 you buy over the course of a year. And that is a very competitive price, and you will struggle to buy Avios any other way for less. So as it's 3 Avios per tier point, you'll be spending 67,500 Avios to get the 22,500 that you would want to buy to help you from golds to platinum. And that would cost you 621 quid. So you might think, well, I'm able to get a third of the way to OneWorld Emerald for 620 quid. But wait! The travel you'd undertake to get you the other 66% of the way to OneWorld Emerald is going to earn you Avios. And as Finnair very helpfully gives you those Avios at the same rate that they give you tier points, it's very easy to calculate how many Avios you're going to earn. And that will be 53,102 from flying plus 4,358 from the tier bonuses, which gives you 57,500 in total, which recoups a very large chunk of the Avios that you would have invested to get the status. Indeed, it will only cost you a net amount of 10,000 Avios to get OneWorld Emerald, which if you buy them through boosting will cost you a net of £92. So you're actually going to get a third of the way towards OneWorld Emerald for less than 100 quid. And that's a number you'll see repeated a few times from here on in. Now that's OneWorld Emerald. If Sapphire is your goal, which is an entirely reasonable strategy because that is the level at which lounge access kicks in, then you'll actually make a profit on the Avios from achieving Sapphire status. You'll only have spent 22,500 to get there, but you'll have earned 37,500, giving you a net upside of 15,000, which if you value them at 0.92 of a P each, has a value of 138 quid, but probably a lot more because I think most people do better than that when redeeming Avios for rewards. Right, so that is all a bit complicated, I will admit, but hopefully you've been able to follow along. That is how you earn status, but it would obviously be much easier if you could just match existing status across to the Finnair scheme and save yourself all this trouble. But Finnair doesn't seem to be an enthusiastic match offerer. I think it's extremely unlikely that Finnair, indeed any other OneWorld airline, would offer a match to BA members. That's not really how alliances work. They don't really want to be competing for each other's customers. And although I have seen some reports of Finnair matching SAS status holders, I haven't seen any evidence of a more widespread matching program being offered by them. Never say never, but I think you should assume that matching status to Finnair, even if you're matching a membership from another alliance, it's just not going to happen. So how do you earn tier points? Well, the answer is by flying on a OneWorld airline. And there's 2 calculation methods you need to know about. Like BA, Finnair knows exactly how much you've spent on flying with them. Unlike BA, Finnair does not know how much you spent flying on any other OneWorld airline. So tier points are granted based on the spend you make on flights with Finnair and on the distance you've flown with any other OneWorld airline. So let's look at Finnair flights first. They seem to have cribbed their calculation methodology from BA, as they deduct the taxes from the fare that you've paid, meaning you'll only earn tier points on the actual net amount that you have spent with the airline. And like BA, the multiplier varies based on the status level that you hold with them, ranging from 6 as a basic member up to 10 as a Lumo member. But the Finnair scheme works in euros, so you need to convert them into pounds because that's the currency many of us watching this video will be spending in, which gives you therefore between 7.1 and 11.9 points per pound spent. And I did the sums for US dollars for completeness if that's the currency that you buy your airfares in. and that's points earned per pound, dollar or euro spent. This is getting a bit mathematical, isn't it? But please stick with me. The thing you need to get your head around is that when flying with Finnair, the price you paid is the only thing that matters. So where you fly doesn't matter, how many flights you take doesn't matter, whether you're getting a good deal or not in a sale doesn't matter. If you find a discounted fare to Bangkok with say 50% off, there's not really much point jumping on it because you'll only get half as many points as you would have done by paying the undiscounted fare. You just have to do it twice to get the same number of points. So counterintuitively, you're better off finding an expensive fare, getting your points in one whack, which will reduce the amount of travelling you actually have to do to achieve status. The mistake I made in that original version of this video is that you do not earn bonus tier points when flying on Finnair. The increase in the earning rates as you progress through the tiers is Finnair's mechanism of rewarding their higher status holders. So if you're building status from a standing start from the basic tier, you'd need to earn the full 37,500 miles from flying to make it to the Sapphire equivalent tier, and the full 57,500 miles from flying to make it to the Emerald equivalent tier. And as those points are earned solely based on spend, you can easily calculate the total cost of achieving status when flying solely on Finnair. You'd still max out the Avios that you would convert, but as you wouldn't get the tier bonuses, you'll need to fly a little bit further to achieve those statuses. And as tier points and Avios are calculated at the same rates, it will still cost you the same to convert those Avios as you would still earn the same number. You're just flying a little further to get them rather than getting some of them via the bonus. So OneWorld Sapphire would cost you about £4,700 and OneWorld Emerald would cost just over £6,000. And that's from flying solely on Finnair, and those TP per pound numbers look a bit odd, but they're the weighted average of the various tiers that you're moving through. So now we have a costing anchor. Let me just quickly pop back to why you would want to maximise the Avios that you contribute towards status. Finnair allows you to get to OneWorld Sapphire by trading 22,500 Avios for 7,500 tier points, which would cost you £207. And that is a tier point per pound ratio of 36, which is 3 to 5 times what you would earn from actually flying on Finnair. And the route to OneWorld Emerald unsurprisingly delivers that same ratio. So you would always maximise the tier points you earn from spending Avios. But what about flying on other OneWorld airlines? Well, Finnair has again cribbed off BA and has published a series of tables showing what you would earn on those other airlines. And those tables are based on the fare code that you book and the mileage that you fly. You will very quickly notice that flying on BA, Iberia and American delivers significantly higher rewards than from flying on other OneWorld airlines, which is all a bit ironic. But as I've said a few times now, I am very happy to still fly on BA as long as it's on my terms. And if the best way to achieve high OneWorld status with Finnair is by flying on BA, I'm going to be absolutely fine with that. Hey, the lounges should be nice and quiet. The 10, 15 and 25% bonus tier points and Avios you get from Finnair status applies to flights taken on BA, AA and Iberia flights and on any Finnair codeshare flights, not on Finnair itself though, in case this wasn't complicated enough already. Now in my original moan about BA's changes, I said that it felt like a favourite hobby had been taken away from me. No more poring over Google Flights, no more optimising through Matrix ITA. But now I've studied the Finnair scheme, I think that hobby is back. You now need to find long flights at low prices in premium cabins, and Google Flights and Matrix ITA are both very helpful in doing so. I will mention here that Finnair's distances are all measured in miles rather than in kilometres. So you're probably looking for flights on BA, Iberia and on American Airlines, which means the old favourite tier point run routes, they're back in the frame. Dublin to London to Los Angeles with a 6-month advance purchase can be had for about £1,600. That's an 11,470 mile round trip, and flying in a discounted business cabin under an R or an I fare code will deliver you 150% of the miles flown into the Finnair scheme. The specific number of Finnair tier points you'll earn will depend on the tier that you're at when you travel because of those bonuses, but I've assumed a 12.5% average bonus between the silver and the gold tiers, which means you would probably get something like 19,400 tier points for that £1,600 investment. And that is a points per pound ratio of just over 12, quite a lot better than you'd get from flying on Finnair's planes. Now, if you got all of the points you needed at that same points per pound ratio, you would achieve OneWorld Sapphire for just under 2,800 quid and OneWorld Emerald for just under 4,500. And in both cases, you'd max out the Avios contribution. Remember, BA wants you to spend well over 7,500 and £20,000 to get the equivalent status through them. And because Finnair's scheme is based on distance rather than on legs, there's no need to add intermediate stops in New York and Las Vegas or whatever. Except, of course, where adding such legs increases the distance. And if you were to zig down to Madrid or even zig back to Helsinki on your way to the west coast, that would significantly increase the number of miles flown. The fare wouldn't change much, but it would increase the return you'd get. GCmap.com, by the way, is the best website I know for quickly finding out distances between airports. A couple more examples, but you can probably already see that sniffling out these opportunities really is quite good fun. BA's discounted first class fare, discount being a relative term obviously, is A, and that earns you 250% of miles flown. So you can fly Oslo to London to San Francisco with the longer leg in first for £2,800, which will deliver you 33,000 Finnair tier points. And I have taken into account that the two legs will have different fare buckets, and that's still using that average 12.5% bonus rate. So that's a very similar 11.8 tier points per pound spent, which means it would cost about the same to get status. But I'd much prefer spending my time in BA's first cabin rather than its business cabin. And you'd get the status from flying fewer actual hours because you're accumulating them quicker in that more premium cabin. A couple more. Dublin to Bogota delivers 12.3 tier points per pound, but the best I found was Oslo to Buenos Aires, which is actually a really long way, but it delivers you 16.4 tier points per pound spent. And if you could get all of the tier points you needed at that same rate, which may not be that easy, I will concede, you would get Emerald status through Finnair for about 3,300 quid. Which is not a lot more than you used to be able to get it for from flying in BA under their old scheme. Now, I will also admit that I found that Oslo to Buenos Aires fare a couple of weeks ago and haven't been able to replicate it since. But it does allow me to make the point that I have merely scratched the surface here of what is possible. There could well be even better opportunities in that BA first cabin, particularly if you buy your fare during a sale. I hear that there are some US domestic routes that are quite attractive. Los Angeles to Puerto Rico has been mentioned. And I also hear that there are occasionally excellent fares from North America all the way across to Asia, which is a flaming long way, which will earn you a lot of tier points, but it could be quite a fun experience. I've also not spent a lot of time looking at non-OneWorld airlines because their earning rates are quite considerably lower, but who's not to say that there aren't opportunities sitting out there if you can just find them. You would need long, cheap legs in premium cabins. So one of my favourite hobbies seems to be back, and I can imagine myself spending many happy hours trying to truffle out these opportunities going forwards. So that's how you achieve status. I think we can all see why no one else has made this video before me. So if you optimise when you join the Finnair scheme and undertake that flurry of travel immediately on joining, you'll get status for pretty close to 2 years. So just under £3,300 for OneWorld Emerald status for 2 years, 1,700 quid a year. That works for me. Renewing status gets a little trickier. Option 1 is to renew in the last year of holding the status that you wish to renew. If you're Platinum, you'll be able to buy 50% of the tier points you need to retain it, which will be 40,000. Plus, you'll be getting a 25% tier point bonus when flying on BA, AA or Iberia, which means you'll only need 32,000 tier points from flying to renew status. You'll still want to maximise the Avios you contribute to renewal, and that will cost you a net of 80,000 Avios, which if you buy them through a boost should cost you 736 quid. And if Sapphire is your sweet spot, you'd need to buy the 22,500 Avios to convert, which will have a net cost of £414. And if you renew status solely from flying on Finnair, you'll need to fly the full 40,000 miles as there's no tier bonus. You'd be getting a 10.7 points per pound return as a platinum member, so it will cost you a total of about £4,500. And if Sapphire is your sweet spot, renewing solely by flying on Finnair will cost you about £2,800. Still a lot less than BA is demanding, but it is a lot more than the £1,700 on average you might have spent to get up to platinum in the first place. That's flying solely on Finnair though, and as we've seen, you probably wouldn't want to do that. Flying on BA, Iberia and American Airlines will earn you a 25% bonus as a platinum member. So that fare I found to Buenos Aires actually increases to an 18.2 points per pound return with that higher platinum bonus, which means you could retain Emerald status for about £2,500. And as you'd actually earn more tier points from that one trip to Buenos Aires than you'd actually need to maintain status, you could do it in one trip. And to maintain OneWorld Sapphire status would cost around £1,600. The next option is to not go out of your way to retain status when you have it, but to allow yourself to drop at the end of the membership year and then get back up again from scratch. As I mentioned, Finnair may offer you a softer landing than that, which would make regaining status a bit easier. But let's assume they don't. So you'd be back to zero and you'd just repeat whatever it was you did that got you up to Sapphire or Emerald in the first place. And if you were to do that travel within a month of your membership year ending, you would do so with the status benefits when travelling of the expiring status. And if you were able to complete it and regain the status, you would then have it for that year, the next year, which would be again about 23 months. But all of that means that with careful planning, you could attain and retain OneWorld Emerald status for about £1,700 a year. And that's quite a lot less than renewing it every year, and again that works for me. It's essentially the same process as we used to try to do retaining status with BA by travelling within the grace period, but the maths is a lot more complicated because of the various bonuses that Finnair offers you. And this all assumes that you do no other flying. Frankly, it would be a bit daft to do this, get status and then sit at home for the rest of the year. So this would all become obviously easier if you already have OneWorld travel planned, personally or for business. Credit those trips and then use the maths you've seen in this video to work out what you would need to do to get yourself up to the status level you wanted to maintain. And talking about renewals brings me back to the point I started out with as regards timing when you join the club. Now, if you're happy to drop out of whatever status level you wish to maintain and build back up again, it will be cheaper and easier to find fares in a low peak month like February than it will in a peak month such as July. And your own personal circumstances may dictate when you are free to travel. And that's why I haven't joined the Finnair Plus scheme yet, because I want to put a little bit more thought into when my ideal tier point running month might be to renew that status. And one last topic talks about the benefits of the status tiers. There's the usual suite of OneWorld benefits that you're probably familiar with, but Finnair offers a few others, three of which I want to mention in particular. The first is upgrades. As a gold card holder with Finnair, you will get 4 upgrade vouchers to spend each year. As context, an economy to business upgrade between London and Helsinki will cost you 1 voucher. An upgrade from Helsinki to Southeast Asia will cost you 4 upgrade vouchers. You need reward availability to be there for the upgrade to go through, but there is a wait list if seats aren't immediately available. It seems quite easy to use these vouchers, but obviously reward availability is the key. If you can be flexible about when you travel, that will obviously help you greatly. Platinum members get 12 upgrades a year, which is enough for 3 upgrades on flights between Helsinki and Southeast Asia. Reward inventory permitting again, but that sounds like a cracking benefit to me. It's much more than BA gives you for an equivalent level of status. The second benefit is that there are milestone rewards available as you progress through the tier points. These include bonus Avios, Avios not tier points, lounge passes and extra upgrade vouchers. So getting to platinum will actually give you 14 upgrade vouchers to use each year. And finally, platinum members are able to gift a gold membership to somebody else once per year of membership. So getting and retaining platinum status will give you the ability to maintain someone else at the gold status. And remember, that's the equivalent of BA Silver. BA does something similar at the Gold Guest List level, but there's nothing even remotely like it available in the BA scheme. And it's another great benefit of pursuing status with Finnair. That's enough. There is more, believe it or not, but I think I'm going to rule a line here. The bottom line is if you plan and execute a careful strategy, you can get and retain platinum status, which is OneWorld Emerald, through Finnair for about £1,700 a year on average, which sounds pretty good for me. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a like. It took a lot of work to make it. And if you're still watching, leave me a comment. Just say hi. Just say something to make me know that this has all been worthwhile. Please subscribe if you're new, and Patreon if you want to help more directly. Thanks again. I'm going for a lie down. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.